record. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, you are most welcome to the first webinar that we are conducting for this year. And the topic, as you can all see before you, it is the review of Islamic finance in 2022 and beyond, and what should we expect going forward. However, the focus will be in East Africa, but also we will have the global and advanced markets reports or information on what is going on Islamic finance in, say, for example, in Asian countries, GCC, and our own countries in East Africa. So it is a great honor for me to invite all of you, our distinguished speakers who are joining us from different parts of the globe. Professor Aisha Muniza is joining us all over from Malaysia. And Brother Muhammad Ali Maawi is joining us from Kenya. And Brother Salum Awad is in Tanzania. Thank you, all of you, for accepting our invitation to share with us your insights on Islamic finance in 2022 and what we should look forward in the years to come. Without taking much time, myself is Khalfan Abdullah, a managing partner for Brad Consult. I will be the host and the moderator, but here and there I will be also contributing where need be. Our company, Abrar Consult, is largely focusing on training as well as on advisory on Islamic finance and halal business, among others. Now, I will let all of our speakers to introduce yourself, and then we shall open our discussions. So to you, Muhammad Ali Maawi.
Well, I've mainly been in banking for the most part, and for up to 2002 is when I started my own consulting work. Prior to that, I've spent about 12 years in Citibank, a few years in project management, a little bit of work in National Bank of Kenya and Stanbic Bank as well, and did a little bit of work for Gulf African Bank as well. What I did do immediately I started consulting work is in 2002, I structured the first Islamic finance, trade finance in Kenya. As you know, the Islamic banks started operating at 2007. So 2002, there was a large Muslim oil trader who wanted to notch up to become an importer rather than a local trader. And therefore, we had to structure an import finance for him on an Islamic way, which we did, and it was eventually financed by PTA Bank at that time, in collaboration with Mashreq Bank. On and off, I also represent iFinancial Management, which is an Islamic finance consulting company based in Dubai and in London, who offer turnkey conversion systems or migration systems if a conventional bank wants to start up Islamic banking. We have turnkey systems under iFinancial Management that can migrate and start services within 6 months. That's about as much as I can say. In banking, I've done operation, done treasury, I've done investment banking. So that's the scope of my past experience, basically.
Thank you so much, Mohammed Ali Maawi, and I have known each other for quite some time, and we worked together while we were at the Gulf African Bank in Nairobi. To you, Professor Aisha Muniza, do you hear us? Professor Aisha Muniza, you can unmute, please. He has joined, but I don't know if there is any technical issue. We will go to Mr. Salum Awad and then come back to Aisha Muniza. Salum Awad.
Shukran, brother. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Salum Awad. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of SSC Capital, which is pretty much a strategy advisory and investment banking firm. And you've been operational for 13 years. But SSC Capital is part of SSC Group, which is a one-stop financial services holding company. Underneath, we also, I would say a year ago, we also launched Shilka, which is our halal investment platform to simplify, investments into Sharia compliant financial securities. Currently, the focus is on Tanzania for Shilka, but the plan is to extend our coverage across the region and probably later to extend it to other parts of Africa. And I'm thankful to be here. Shukran.
Thank you so much, Brother Salum Awad. I've known Brother Salum Awad for quite some time, and he has been a very strong believer of Islamic finance, and we are glad to have you on board. Professor Aisha Muniza, do you hear us? Do you hear me? You can unmute, please. Professor? Not sure if there is any challenges on our part, but okay. So thank you so much, all of you, for your generous introduction. Now we will start our conversation with the question that is thrown to all of you, but we'll start with Mohammed Maawi. In your opinion, can you share with us what you have observed on Islamic finance over the past year? What development has attracted your attention in 2022 in terms of maybe innovations or trends or missing opportunity? Most welcome to share.
Oh, I don't know whether I'm the right person to kickstart this discussion, because my views are quite a bit off the current track. Basically, I've always held the view that while it was good that Islamic banking had to get a start somewhere, and therefore it kind of adopted itself quickly into almost a conventional system of banking, the Anglo-Saxon banking, and got things started. But after that, we've not mutated, we've not changed, and we've stagnated basically. Whereby we need to shift to the proper Islamic banking, right? The current system of benchmarking on the money market rates and the interest rates. I kind of call it taking a Joseph, putting him a Muslim cap and a Muslim robe, and then calling him Yusuf, right? So there are other ways of benchmarking that are more attuned to how an Islamic bank should be structured. And I think so far, I've been hoping that would happen each year, and it hasn't. So that's where I come from basically, and I think if I may just explain a little bit more, and that is, if two customers walk into the bank, one is doing transport business and one is doing real estate, it's $10 million, right? Funding. The dynamics of a transport business is completely different to the dynamics of a real estate business. Benchmarking all of them on an interest rate base is wrong. Each one needs to have its own benchmark. And so Islamic banking must be based on sector or industrial benchmarking. There should be several benchmarks depending on which sector or which industry the business is being conducted. But that migration has never happened, and it should have. Once it was good for it to get started because it needed a start. Once it got started, I think we've gotten a bit lazy and we've gotten a bit comfortable, and we're stuck to just the old. This is how we do it, and that's how it is. Rabaha, musharaka, and whatnot, and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's what I'm saying. I may not be the right person to kickstart this. I'd rather, people who have a closer experience of what 22 brought about to kind of begin the discussion.
Thank you so much for sure for what you have shared. We appreciate it. I'll take it to Mr. Salum Awad to contribute onto that question as to what has attracted your attention in 2022.
Thank you, Brother Alfan. So I don't know whether you want me to focus on the global landscape or pretty much more at the local level.
Whichever you wanted to start with, you feel free to.
Okay, yeah. So I think what we saw in 2022 is pretty much the same trend that we have been seeing over the past, say, 5 to 10 years when it comes to Islamic finance. I think we all know Islamic finance is pretty much playing a catch-up game with its conventional counterpart in terms of the size of the market, the range of products, uptake of the services, and penetration. So what we saw last year, I think, is what is the culmination of what was happening before last year. And one of the key milestones, I think, is the growth of the total assets in the Islamic finance industry globally, which hit $4 trillion. And we also saw that because now in the world of finance, there was a lot of investments and a lot of interventions in the use of technology to offer financial services. The way financial services will be offered, the way financial services providers will operate, say from the past 2-3 years, and the way they operate in the next 5 to 10 years, will be totally different from the way financial services were offered and were structured, say, 20 years ago. So the rise of fintech has been critical in the financial industry in general, and Islamic finance has not been left out on the same front. We saw investments into Islamic fintech startups hitting $1 billion, pretty much dominated by MENA region. But we also saw the total value, the market size of all these startups in general that are in the fintech space, reaching a valuation of close to $50 billion. So this is the huge, it's a huge milestone that we see, even though, of course, if you look at the numbers in terms of comparison between the general fintech market globally and Islamic fintech, we are still less than, I would say, 5% of the total market. So we still have a lot of work to go. Probably we can look into that from 2023 and beyond. The other thing, I think, what we also saw was the issuances of Sukuk reaching beyond $150 billion. Last year, if I remember correctly, issuances from Sukuk at the global level reached $174 billion. So these were new issuances. And if you look at the total outstanding value of Sukuk market globally, again, we saw the market rising to $630 billion. We also saw an increase in formulation and enactment of new Islamic funds, which is a positive indication of growth of Islamic capital markets. One of the things that we have continuously seeing in the market was the overemphasis on Islamic banking and leaving out other aspects of the entire Islamic finance ecosystem. So Sukuk, which follows the second, is highly driven by Islamic funds. So Islamic funds is pretty much the emergency of fund managers and asset managers who build funds with an emphasis on investing in Sharia compliant assets. And those are the ones who will deploy all these funds into Islamic capital markets and contribute to the rise of Sukuk and, of course, ultimately the growth of Islamic finance in general. So those are things that we saw in 2022 from my end. And if you look at it from the local level, if you permit me to go, then I can share my few insights on what happened in Tanzania in particular.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for Tanzania, I think Tanzania is still a nascent market when it comes to Islamic finance, just like many other markets in Africa. And the growth was slower, I would say, just before last year. And last year was pretty much like a boom of Islamic finance in Tanzania. And if you look at it I can look at it from four angles. One is, if you can look at it from banking, you can look at it from capital markets, from Takaful, and social finance. I think those are the four areas where there are a lot of activities in the market. So if you look at the banking space, we all know the arrival and the launch and more activities by Al Baraka Bank by CRDB. For those who don't know, CRDB is one of the two largest commercial banks in Tanzania in terms of assets and all other metrics. So having a window from one of these two mega banks, I think is a plus to the market. And given their muscle, their branch network, the technology that they have, I think they can leverage on that to help the industry grow much quicker and faster than banks which will probably begin with a single branch. And then we know that a couple guidelines were officially enacted last year, May. And we all know all the players in the Islamic finance ecosystem in Tanzania have been pushing and lobbying and advocating for regulations for Takaful over the past 10 years. Alhamdulillah, last year we saw, even though it was not per se in terms of regulations, we at least got the guidelines, which are in place as we speak. We know a few companies have submitted their applications to become Takaful operators. So hopefully, inshallah, next year, we hope to see at least one or two operators coming to the market. And then in the capital markets, we saw some more activities. KCB Bank, which runs an Islamic window, Sahel Banking, also went to the market and issued the first public sukuk, which was priced to close to 4.5, close to $5 million, a 3-year corporate sukuk. I think it was a good addition to the market because prior to that, we know another operator in the market had issued almost 4 series of corporate sukuks, but all were privately held. So this did not provide any opportunity to the public to invest into sukuk. So this one thing we saw, I think, is a huge development. And as we speak now, the sukuk is already listed at the Islam Stock Exchange for further trading. We also know that Amana Bank, which is the only fully Sharia compliant bank, we know it's been trying to raise capital for the past few months. And ultimately, they decided also to do a sukuk. But for them, again, they did a private placement, which didn't provide an opportunity for the general market to invest in. We know that Shuka, which is my company. It's not always a good thing to speak about yourself, but I can use this opportunity just to share a few things that we have also trying to do. One is we launched our mobile app that would simplify investing into Sharia compliant stocks, which are listed and trading in the Islam Stock Exchange. And lastly, I think we saw a lot of activities, especially in the space of education and awareness. So we know a lot of work done by yourself, Khalfan from Abrar Consult. We know CIFCA, which is the Center for Islamic Finance, Compliance and Advice in Tanzania, also did a lot of education and awareness activities, which I think has helped to change the mindset and hopefully will increase market traction into the uptake and usage of Islamic financial services moving forward, inshallah. I'll end there, Brother Khalfan.
Thank you so much for those insights of what attracted your attention in 2022. I'm just trying to reach to Dr. Aisha Muniza. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well now.
MashaAllah. Kindly introduce yourself a bit and then share with us your perspective of what attracted your attention in 2022 on Islamic finance in Malaysia, Maldives, your beloved home country, and across the globe.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Is my voice clear?
Very well, clear.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's start from Malaysia, because Malaysia is considered as the cranium of Islamic finance in the world. In January 2022, we saw that Bank Negara Malaysia, the regulatory authority for banks and financial institutions in Malaysia, came up with their financial sector blueprint 2022 to 2026, which is a 5-year strategic plan where the emphasis was put on making Malaysia as the international gateway for Islamic finance. So this is something which shows that at an international level, in Malaysia, we're trying to ensure that Islamic finance is not only locally promoted, but internationally, whatever the facilitation could be done will also be done. So this is assurance for that. And then if you ask me what is the next most important thing that happened in the last year, I would say the introduction of the Malaysian Islamic overnight rate, which is the first global transaction-based Islamic benchmark. It was introduced in March 2022, whereby a risk-free alternative reference rate for overnight ringgit interbank placements were introduced. So meaning that this is something we've been talking about, formulating the Islamic benchmark for Islamic financial products. And theoretically, there are a lot of presumptions on this or assumptions made previously also, but this is the first time we saw something which is happening from a regulatory authority. After that, if I want to highlight anything which is important, I would say that would be the licensing of digital Islamic banks, meaning that, as we know, COVID has taught us that technology is very important to our daily lives even, and we have to welcome all types of technological developments, and a regulatory authority taking initiative to license digital banks is something which is worth highlighting, I would say. And a final point which I would like to highlight in this regard would be incorporation or finding synergy between Islamic commercial finance with Islamic social finance. For instance, in June 2022, we saw that Malaysian Takaful and Association has launched value-based intermediation for Takaful. And we understand that through this roadmap, we would be able to converge Islamic social finance with Islamic commercial finance, specifically in Takaful. And having said that, another area, if I were to highlight, would be, we find that sustainability has been given importance as well, because at the end of the day, nowadays, it is important for us to understand what is sustainable, responsible, and impactful investing, and what is the approaches that we could use in order to align Islamic finance with Maqasidu Sharia, so that we could achieve VBI, ESG, and SDGs as well. So these are the main developments which I would like to highlight from the Malaysian perspective. And if from Maldivian perspective, I would say, again, something repetitive could be observed, because digitalization is something which has been emphasized, and inclusivity by integrating social finance with Islamic commercial finance is also something which has been explored, but not to the level that has been explored in Malaysia. For instance, we've seen for the first time in the history of the country, Zakat programs have been introduced to help those businesses or those who are affected adversely due to COVID-19. And this is an initiative that we didn't see before. Therefore, I believe that this is just the first step towards integrating Islamic social finance with commercial finance. That would be all from me for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Over
much.
to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Aisha, for those insights from Malaysia. I'd just like to contribute a bit on the Kenyan developments in 2022. For the first time, we had seen an Islamic circle, which is fully fledged, issuing sukuk to be subscribed by its own members for the purpose of acquiring a new building that was targeted to be the headquarters of that particular circles. And this is an interesting development from Kenya, but also we saw the launch of M-Sharia. M-Sharia is an alternative financing product from what we have in Kenya, which is M-Shwari, which are normally interest-based loans given to the mobile subscribers. We have seen a Gulf African bank launching a product to finance their customers through mobile phone. And so we are seeing a trend towards increasing the financial inclusion by not only having saving products, but also to access financing through a mobile phone. Again, in Kenya, a bit of not a good news was that one of the pioneer bank went into some liquidity issues, which caused some panic within the industry or to their customers specifically, and a lot of questions started to be asked as to the authenticity of Islamic finance in protecting their depositors and it is overall value proposition in terms of its sustainability. But good enough, it is something that has been managed so far, so good. The bank has not closed, still operating, and hopefully it will be able to operate as usual in the years to come. So those are just few insights that I recall that had happened in Kenya. But at the global stage, I recall IOFI issuing several governance standards that came in force to the market, to those countries which we subscribe to these standards as compulsory. Then they're already operational, and these standards are on the financial accounting standards as well as Sharia standards. As we all know, IOFI is a standard-setting body based in Bahrain that issues standards, accounting standards, auditing standards, and they're very famous for issuing Sharia standards. So this is a proof that there's a lot of things that needs to be done, and some has been done and some are work in progress in order to propel the development of this industry globally. I also understand that in Malaysia, they had issued some time ago, not many few years ago, value-based banking intermediation or value-based intermediation for the banking sector. But also last year, they issued a value-based intermediation for the takaful sector, which is something that maybe later on our sister Aisha might share some few thoughts as to what that entails. But it was also very interesting to hear that in Malaysia there are digital banks which have been licensed, which of course we'll be glad to hear if they have started operations or so or not so far. So that being said, I think we can now move into another question that I have, which is with regards to the future now, what the future holds, or what needs to be done for the Islamic finance to gain more momentum, score more mileages for the purpose of making sure that its value proposition is felt and it gets more admirers across the globe. Maybe I can pose this to Mohammed Ali Maawi again to share your thoughts. What are the challenges you are seeing maybe in Kenya, and maybe what needs to be done in order for Islamic banking, Islamic insurance in Kenya to be able to move beyond where it is? Maawi, are you there?
Okay, can you? I had to remove my mute. Yeah, the fact that as you mentioned, that you started M-Sharia is very encouraging, because as you know, M-Shwari looks to be friendly, but it isn't pocket friendly. It's short-term friendly, but very, very, very expensive form of financing. And the fact that it is targeting the low income, base of the pyramid demographic profile, I hope that M-Sharia will kind of will shake up, that space by offering something much more reasonable in terms of the cost to finance, and it's a welcome thing, because for this market, it is a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for Gulf African banks, a very huge opportunity for M-Sharia. If you look at the uptake that people have gone into with M-Shwari, and if they are able to be made aware that M-Sharia is an alternative and a better alternative, then you will scoop the market, right? That is a very, very big scoop you can get in this market. And it just depends on how much the market gets to know about it. And essentially that's what it is, because the other thing that we hope should happen in Kenya, and that is in terms of Islamic banking, proportionate to the level of wealth that Muslims have in this country, right? The Islamic banks are punching way above their weight. They're grossly undercapitalized. I don't think that there's any not a proper assessment has been done as to whether the capitalization that is held by the Islamic banks right now, meets the market demand, and that's one of the main drawbacks of Islamic banking in Kenya, where it doesn't meet its potential, and it ends up disappointing the public, because there's so many things it can do by being undercapitalized. And to some extent, over the last 5 or so years, right, it has led to loss of confidence, right, in Islamic banking. So I think that aspect needs to be looked at very closely. And if the Islamic bank, like Gulf African Bank, has been able to sustain and survive with low capitalization for all the years since it got started, which is 2007, if I'm not mistaken, then it's a high time that the shareholders see that, look, and some sort of analysis and assessment be done to present to the shareholders that, look, if you double the capital or triple the capital, this is how much business we can attract it. I remember when Gulf African Bank was started, and with all the enthusiasm, the relationship managers in Mombasa quickly went to see Grain Bulk owner Jafar, right? The managing director of Grain Bulk, the owner of Grain Bulk. Grain Bulk is one of the huge corporates, and it's Muslim owned, right? He was reluctant to see the relationship managers or the officer that went to see him. He was asking, and in fact, before they even saw him, he came out and asked them, "What are you coming to do here?" Oh, we want you to bank with us. He says, "You can't bank me. You can't bank my organization. Your capital is peanuts. There's nothing that you can do at the level at which I'm." And as you can see, known as this Grain Bulk, almost the whole grain milling industry is 70, 80, or maybe 90% Muslim owned, right? In Kenya as well, and in Tanzania also, so Muslim owned in a big way by Azam. Okay, transport industry, retail business, a lot of big business is being done at the retail level, mainly by the Somali community. And I just don't understand why it's so undercapitalized. I think that is something that you need to really address, and you've proved yourself, you've been there, you've stuck in there with little capital, right? Now, I don't see why there can't be much any confidence by the shareholders to pump in more, and all you need to do is show them a cost-benefit analysis and say, look, this is how much business we can, pick up with this additional capitalization.
Thank you so much. I think that is very good observation going forward, particularly in Kenya, but I think it might be also applying to also other countries where Islamic financial institutions are not adequately capitalized to tap in its full potential. To you, Mr. Salum Awad, what do you think needs to be done in order to advance Islamic finance?
Mr. Salum, if I might interject a bit here, because you're an investment banker, and I think also Lawyer Salum was this bank. Maybe there could be an opportunity space for you to look at supplementary capital for the banks, to raise capital, supplementary capital through your investment banking operations.
Yes, Salman.
Yes, thank you. I think I will start with my brother's observation, which is very important. I totally agree with you. I think Islamic banks across the region need a lot of recapitalization, and unfortunately, some of these banks, as far as I know, have not been forthcoming in terms of trying to explore other non-conventional sources of capital. That's why I would see, if I may, I can use a case of Amana Bank, which is our fully compliant Sharia bank. Unfortunately, they've been struggling for a while in terms of raising additional capital. I think any rational shareholder would hesitate to keep on injecting more investments into the bank, given the fact that since the bank came into operation, I think close to 10 years, it is yet to pay any dividends. So any right move for the bank to go out, the shareholders' options to raise money. And options, if you go to the public, they may either do what they did, go to the market and do a book, or explore the private capital sources. So whether they would bring in a private equity investor or a venture capital investor and bring in more capital, bring in more expertise, bring in more governance, or bring in a strategic investor, get one bigger bank from other parts of the world that is really looking to expand its wings into this region, and they wouldn't probably want to invest in a greenfield project, and then they can jump on board and take a decent equity into one of these banks and recapitalize them. But unfortunately, we haven't. Personally, I think Brother Alfan is also trying to do that, trying to reach out to some of these banks. So I have a lot of hope for a bank such as CRDB, given the fact that it has a huge muscle, and they have the ability to raise more capital for its Islamic window, Al-Barak. And then for them, I don't see if they would really struggle to raise additional capital. I'm not sure whether the 10 billion Tanzanian shillings, which is less than $5 million, corporate sukuk issued by KCB last year, will make a huge change for the bank in terms of its balance sheet. They still need to do a decent raise. The same thing to Amana Bank that they also did. I think it was 5 billion shillings, which is less than, again, $3 million. I think is peanuts if you're looking at the total banking industry in Tanzania. It's still a drop in the ocean. So I totally agree with you, and we are happy to explore more potential partnerships and banks to see if we could support them bringing in more capital. But we are open to do that as long as these banks open their doors. So coming back to your question, Brother Khalfan, I think for what we expect to see, which of course, is some of the things that should be happening and some of the things which I think should happen. One is in the sukuk front. We know what has happened in the past 1 or 2 years. There have been a series of issuances on sukuk, but unfortunately, the reception of some of these sukuks were not very positive in the market, either from some of the individuals with strong background in Sharia or Islamic finance, and they thought probably more could have been done. Fortunately, we are issuing sukuk in the market, just like the way we are doing with Islamic banks, with no any guidelines, no regulations, no legal framework. So it's very easy for someone to step on the toes and leave out the door of compliance easily. I was talking to one American guy who was looking to invest in Tanzanian capital market, and we were talking about the sukuk, which was coming to the market at that time, which is KCB sukuk. And they asked me about the regulations and what are the regulations for sukuk issues in Tanzania? And they said, no, there are no regulations for sukuk. And he said, how do you issue a sukuk without regulations or any legal or regulatory framework for that matter? So I've seen the good thing is the Capital Markets and Securities Authority have taken that into consideration, and they have begun their preparations to issue guidelines for sukuk issues in Tanzania. So hopefully, inshallah, they'll manage to finalize that as quicker than what happened to Takaful that took years. And if that happens, I think it will help to protect, one, investors, two, the industry, but thirdly, provide guidelines for any issuer who wants to come to the market. I think the government is obliged actually to explore the use of sukuk as one of its options to raise its debt. We all know that, I think Khalfan has been talking about this quite a while, that the government is for the people. They collect taxes and on the same note, they provide opportunities for people to invest in some of the instruments that they're using to raise additional capital. Unfortunately, all the instruments that they're using are exclusive. They are not inclusive to Muslim investors. So if the government issues the sovereign sukuk for that matter, I think will be, one, promotes financial inclusion in Tanzania. But secondly, will be a huge milestone for the growth of the industry. I think we'll see more issuances coming to the market if the government will make that statement in terms of issuing the sovereign sukuk. The other area which I think has been struggling in Tanzania, honestly, is the municipal or the local government authorities in terms of raising capital to finance the local government projects. They've been struggling for a very long time and very huge limitations when it comes to raising finance. So I've seen UNCDF, which is one of the branches of UN, trying to support municipals to issue municipal bonds. So I think it's a great opportunity. And I think this year, one of the regional water authorities will be issuing a ring-fenced revenue sukuk bond. And I think will be a huge statement. Unfortunately, it won't be a sukuk bond for that matter. It will be a traditional conventional bond. So if we can use that type of a drive and support from UNCDF to also explore whether some of these authorities, water authorities, or some of these municipal authorities can explore the use of municipal bonds, especially in areas where they have high Muslim population, in the southern part of Tanzania, such as, Mtwara, Lindi, or Tanga. I think that would be a great opportunity for the market. I think on the takaful, we still need to do a lot of awareness, especially to potential investors. It's pity that a struggle of 10 years plus to push the government to issue guidelines / regulations for sukuk came into the market last year. But to date, we are yet to see an operator. And if this doesn't happen, I think next May, which will be 1 year anniversary since the regulations or the guidelines were issued, I think we'll send a negative message to the market whether we are really ready for this type of instruments. And I'm not sure whether the government will be open to build other guidelines or regulations for other instruments. So I think we need to educate whether the high net worth individuals we have, whether big corporates that we have in our community, to explore the opportunity in takaful. I think the other area, especially for banks, is to explore the use of technology. The world of banking is not brick and mortar. I think we all know that. I was reading a report from Equity Bank in Kenya, where 90% of all of its transactions are done through digital platforms, whether it's a mobile phone or internet banking. And that's the future of banking, honestly. So I don't see a bank such as Amana to open 20, 25 branches across the country. It's expensive, it's costly. I think they can explore the use of technology that will ease in the expansion. But they can also do a lot of strategic partnerships. Unfortunately, in Tanzania, the market for Islamic Fintech is pretty much non-existent, but banks can support in terms of, launching some of these, incubations for Islamic startups to build fintech solutions that banks can use and leverage on for their expansion. And lastly, I think one of the other area which we haven't done enough work, to be honest, is in the microfinance. And for me, that's where I see a close relationship between Islamic finance and poverty alleviation. Unfortunately, banks continue to be banks. Their role on poverty alleviation is still very marginal. So for me, I think microfinance institutions have a huge role and have a huge opportunity to use Islamic finance as an instrument to alleviate poverty. So we know we only have one decent microfinance institution, and hopefully we need to support more institutions. I think in Tanzania now, informal credit schemes have in excess of 2 trillion Tanzanian shillings worth of assets. If we can tap into this and see how much of this can, be Islamized and build a few Islamic vikobas and Islamic circuses, will help a lot in terms of penetration, reach the bottom of the pyramid, and help alleviation of poverty by use of Islamic finance.
Thank you so much for that thought. Let us give Aisha's Muniza, and then we'll let you, Mohammed, to share what you want to say, Prof. Muniza,
Yes, thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I think in order to unlock the full potential of Islamic finance in all over the world, it's very important that we have the right mindset to change what we do in Islamic finance, in the sense that the only complaint we hear all over the world, which is common, is to say that there's no difference between Islamic and conventional finance, right? So in order to ensure that the right mindset is set in all countries where Islamic finance is offered and all those countries who want to offer Islamic finance, we need to change the mindset of the people who are dealing with Islamic finance. All stakeholders need to understand the differences between conventional and Islamic finance, and they need to ensure that however they participate in the industry, they show the difference. So I think awareness is the biggest focus for the year, because without creating awareness and without creating the right talent required for the industry, it would be impossible to come up with the genuine Islamic finance products that we want to have in our industry. Therefore, in order to resolve this challenge, we found out that the main reason why people tend to have misconceptions between Islamic finance and conventional finance, and as well as the people who are on the top doing the Islamic finance as a conventional mindset, is because they don't have the opportunity to learn what Islamic finance is while they are on the job. And therefore, INSAF University has introduced micro certification and professional certification programs, so that at least if, for example, let's say there's a Sharia scholar who wants to know more about finance background, he could just come to our university, no need to enroll in a full-fledged academic program, rather just take one certification program for one subject. For one semester, the Sharia scholar can study about whatever the subject he needs to upgrade his knowledge on, and then he could just get a certification and leave the university. So this is the convenience we are trying to provide to the industry, so that at least the mindset of having the conventional finance and not being able to deviate from that would be kind of resolved, not only at the top level, but at the bottom level as well. So I believe that having these type of opportunities is important. And since our programs are offered online, anybody in any part of the world could join our programs and get themselves upgraded. Another thing which I want to highlight, other than awareness and changing the mindset, is using innovation to come up with real Islamic finance products which are aligned with Maqasid Sharia. Now, in some of the countries in the world, for example, when I visited Sri Lanka, Amana Bank said that they have come up with a very good social finance project or initiative, whereby orphans, when they go to orphanage, everybody loves them because they are kids. But when they grow up and reach a certain age, they're supposed to go out of the orphanage and become adults overnight, and they are not fully equipped with the soft skills or even the minimum required knowledge to survive in a society. So because of that, they tend to enter into criminal world and do a lot of crimes, leading them to be lead to failure in their life. So in order to avoid these types of second abandonment of orphanage, the bank has come up with an initiative where people could help these orphans who would reach to a certain age and will have to face the society, by giving them the opportunity either to upgrade themselves by joining an academic institute or starting a business, or move towards self-sufficiency using the helping hand provided through the platform of the bank. So I believe that these types of innovative Islamic social finance or Islamic finance programs could be introduced in different parts of the world, so that at least we are not only helping the main economy to survive, but also those who are underserved segment of the population or unserved segment of the population, they also have an opportunity in Islamic finance. Therefore, it's very, very important that we use innovative mechanisms to help those who are in need through Islamic finance. And this is something we need to emphasize in this year as well. COVID has taught us more than ever that there is need to create a parallel way of providing Islamic commercial finance and Islamic social finance as well. Because at the end of the day, if you can't have an Islamic commercial finance product, you need to find a way to survive, and that survival could come from Islamic social finance as well. So I believe that what I want to see in future is under one roof, we should be able to provide both Islamic commercial finance and Islamic social finance solutions, and all segments of population should be served through Islamic finance. That would be all for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sister Aisha. We are only, since we started a bit 10 minutes late, so I'll just extend the time to maybe 10 minutes. Thank you all for your contribution on that. Maybe one or two on my side to add is on the sovereign sukuk. Kenya, this has been on the talk for quite some time, and we haven't seen much progress, but good news came from Zanzibar last year when they announced they were looking for an advisory services for structuring a sovereign sukuk for the Zanzibar island. And as you know, Zanzibar is an semi-autonomous island within the United Republic of Tanzania that is almost 98% Muslim. So maybe we are going to look a sovereign sukuk issued from that part, and that will be quite a good development, as highlighted by Brother Salum on that angle. Also, I think there is a lot that needs to be done with respect to building these institutions to be able to serve the bottom of the pyramid. We all know that being the least or third part of the world, the majority of our people are at the bottom of the pyramid. So we need to be able to develop adequate institutions in different regions, in different counties, that will be able to meet their needs. Kenya, where I know it had a SACCOS for quite some time, Takwa SACCOS has been the only one, and unfortunately it hasn't spread all over the country. In Tanzania, we had Tampro. It has been there for quite some time, Tampro SACCOS, but again, it is confined to certain areas. So I think it is important for Islamic finance going beyond to reach at this bottom of the pyramid in order to be able to serve their needs, share prosperity, and leave the impact down there. But more importantly, on the area of social finance, we still have a long way to go here on zakat and awqaf. The good news is Tanzania has started a zakat a trust that has yet been launched, but it has been registered. Maybe we're gonna see such a body come into operational this year in order to be able to encourage people, educate people to give waqfu for social empowerment, socio-economic empowerment. Also, zakat is another area that needs a lot of sensitization. We are in Rajab now, and most Muslim likes to pay zakat during Ramadan. So it's very important that we not only sensitize payment or calculation distribution, but also need to keep the data. We need to have the data that in our hands, so as to track the fulfillment of this pillar. And maybe my last note would be transparency within the conventional windows within the Islamic windows within this region. This is something I've been calling for many years, that we needed to be transparent. Islamic banks, they have no option. They have to publish their numbers on a quarterly basis, so we're able to see their asset liabilities, their capital positions. But Islamic windows, they have been operating on the dark, so to speak. You cannot be able to tell, for example, 2022, or what are the assets and liabilities sitting within the Islamic windows that are operating in this region. And I think that has to change. And I'm glad that one of the things that IOFI issued last year is a separate standard, financial accounting standard for Islamic windows, Islamic financial reporting for Islamic windows, showing them on how they need to report and share this important information to the public. And I know, sitting from Sharia compliance, financial reporting is part and parcel of Sharia compliance. You can't only have AQAD compliance, process compliance, but you need also to comply in terms of accounting and financial reporting. So maybe we will be able to see and hope to see all this in 2023 and beyond. Now I'll give my speaker 1 minute each to say your how to contribute your final thoughts, and if there is any minute left to reach to 10 minutes extra, I will allow 1 or 2 from the audience. So quickly to Maawi, wanted to say something, but make it very short and straight. Yeah.
Okay, to basically in terms of the sukuks that our brother was talking about, I just wanted to find out who does the underwriting for these sukuks. Is there? Do you have? Why I'm mentioning this is that maybe financial management, we could arrange the finance underwriting internationally and also help in the distribution of the bond internationally. So there could be an opportunity to be able to gain, absorb more capital because of being underwritten by a global financial institution, a much more stronger institution. I believe when you do a sukuk or a bond, what matters mainly, a lot matters on how is it underwritten, and that lends confidence to the sukuk. Secondly, in terms of opportunity here in Kenya, as you know, Khalfan, there's this new Fatwa Council, I think that has been just set up in Kenya just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
That could be one institution whereby now you can work very closely, especially in terms of setting this, what you just said about the Zakah system, collection of Zakah and management of Zakah, plus of course in terms of giving direction. What's important is that you need to have good bankers being able to advise the council. Right now, with all due respect, if the Central Bank of Kenya governor wants to implement a new policy in banking generally, and wants to know what's the Islamic banking angle to it, or what is the Islamic financial angle to it. Previously, I don't know, but he'll refer to the chief executives, right? Fortunately, now we have a good chief executive at the First Community, who is well grounded in religion and in finance. We also have a good CEO at the CAFU, right? And we need to have some sort of good support for the CEO of Gulf African Bank, because he'll be the first point of contact. And I don't know what is his depth. I know him very well. He's a very good friend. And I know he started his career with a job for a project that I had pioneered in Kenya. And that's how he started. and that way he started his career. So I know his career all the way through up to where he is now.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, we're running short of time. Okay, another speaker, Mr. Salom, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I just want to stress on our sister, Professor Aisha, on the need for more increased awareness in education. I think education awareness is needed within the Muslim community and outside the Muslim community. So I think it's critical. One thing I think I should call out is if we can build more partnerships and more collaborations, sharing experiences. We all know, a country such as Malaysia has become a top player when it comes to the development of Islamic finance. I think we can share more on their developments and what we can do for this market in Kenya. So, Brother Halfan, whatever that you have started today, we can probably do this quarterly. We can give ourselves more updates and probably have more room for collaboration in the future, inshallah. Shukran.
Thank you so much for that final thought. To you, Dr. Professor Aisha.
Yes, thank you very much again. I think my final thought would be, I wish that Islamic social finance institutions or institutions offering Islamic social finance would emphasize more on Sharia governance. Because right now, if you ask anyone, why do you not deal with institutions offering Islamic social finance products, they would say that we don't have confidence. Now, why is that they don't have confidence in these institutions? Simply because we don't have good governance practices which are uniformly used throughout the world. So I wish that in 2023 or in this ongoing year, hopefully we'll be able to manage this issue by introducing certain minimum standards that could be followed by Islamic social finance institutions which are operated in all parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, all of you, for your wonderful final thoughts. On my side, I think we are looking a year that is coming with opportunities, as well as will be coming with its own challenges. However, we need to keep doing the best that we are doing in order to propel the industry forward. One of the things that I remembered, and I said maybe I should mention this, is we have seen also in Kenya the pension funds, Islamic pension windows opened up and came up, and also hoping to see this development in Tanzania. We know in Zanzibar, the Zanzibar Social Security Fund has started some deliberations on it, and perhaps maybe 2023 will be the year to deliver an Islamic pension fund for this market. That being said, I don't want to take more of your time. I know, Professor, you're joining us from Malaysia, which is maybe now 11 or so. Thank you so much, all of you, the panelists, for making time and for sharing your insight with us. And I take the suggestion from Brother Salom, maybe to have this quarterly in order to share more on what is going on within the Islamic finance, and also share our thoughts, what needs to be done going forward. So you, dear participants, I don't forget you. I know perhaps you wanted to ask some questions, but fortunately we're running short of time. But inshallah, as we move along in other sessions, we shall allocate adequate time for you to be able to contribute or ask questions. After that being said, thank you so much, our panelists. Thank you so much, our participants, and I wish you a good evening and a good weekend ahead. Ma'as-salam wa barakallahu feekum. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.